Okay, welcome to dropping in. No, sorry. Welcome to Evidence-Based Audio Engineering and Education, number 130. And this one is called Impulsive Reflections. So we're going to talk a lot about impulses and IRs and all that stuff. Hey, Leland. Oh, you guys are riding in town. Okay, so when this is over, hopefully we're going to go ride in town. We shall see. So right off the bat, Dan Worrell, and I've had my differences with him about freedom of speech in the music business, but he makes great videos about the technical stuff, and he put out a video called "DJs Want Loud Masters because DJs Are Idiots." Yeah, this is rough, man. He's got some points here, and we are in a point now because of the EBU R128, the LUF standards and stuff, where maybe we can end the volume wars. And if you weren't familiar with the volume wars, this is a situation where people wanted to have the loudest CD in the rack, like in a jukebox or whatever, because the idea is the louder is better, and you'll stand out more or whatever, or you have to be competitive, a lot of different scare quotes kind of things. And in order to get that volume, we sacrificed, early on, we sacrificed all the dynamics. So like the loud parts of stuff compared to the quiet parts. So things like, Black Sabbath from back in the day, you'd never be able to do, where they would play quiet to move you into the speakers and then smack you with the loud sound. So they got rid of dynamics right away. But another thing they had to do was to limit bass and treble, do things tonally to get more volume out, do things to make things more mono to get more volume out, and kind of the final straw was to just distort the hell out of everything in order to get more volume. And there's a lot of videos you could watch on this. I think some of the more famous ones are the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rush. But anyway, the new volume standards that YouTube and Spotify and stuff put out kind of made it so that this was kind of an unwinnable war, and allegedly we could go back to sensible volumes, but the DJs still wanted everything cranked up, and the idea, one of the reasons they gave is that they wanted it at the same volume as everything else, but you got a volume knob, and that was Dan Worrell's point, I think, is that if you want your stuff to be the same volume, even if things are slammed, they're going to appear to be different volumes. So, go in there and set the volumes to what you think they should be for that thing. You're in control of a volume knob. And, this is like the old ancient constant forum back and forth where you'd, I think the main title was, "Is a DJ a musician?" And there would be this big fight back and forth. But in this case, these DJs are making an excuse for the volume wars when they have a knob. If you look at, and Dan pointed this out as well, if you look at a mix, and I know it's not real time like the DJs have to be, hey, Kavika, we're mixing albums. We probably got like 30 or 40 tracks of information to mix. You guys got, most of the time you got 2, right? You can figure it out. But that it's different because these guys are going live. It's kind of hardcore, man. So I have some sympathy, and there was a direct response by Tutorialism. It says, "I call myself a dumb DJ all the time, but it seems a bit off when a non-DJ like the mighty Dan Worrell is singing it." And this guy spoke with a lot of respect for Dan Worrell. I don't know who he is, but he put out a pretty good video. And Dan responded to him. "Okay, so you clearly know your stuff. Don't disagree with much of what you say. Just the conclusion that mastering to -6 is a good solution to any of those issues." And for you guys, if you're mastering to a -6 RMS, you have squished the crap out of everything. You may as well be doing an 8-bit recording. And I think we've done some videos before where I've showed that we can decimate the bit rate pretty low, and and it's still going to sound the same. I mean, if you're at -6, 8 bits should be more than enough. But Dan goes on to say 2 specific points, though, regarding the difficulty of judging levels on headphones. You're right, I've never done a DJ set, but I've plenty of experience using headphones at front of house while the PA blasts something else. I've done plenty of gigs and festivals with no sound check. You line check on cans and fix it during the first song, and that's what faders are for, right? That's the whole point. That's what faders are for, right? That's what volume knobs are for. You set the trim as best you can using the cans, and you push the fader up until it's loud enough in the mix. What's the problem? So these guys go back and forth. It's probably a good read. So if you go to Tutorialism, the video is called "Reacting to Dan Worrell, DJs Are Idiots." But I want to take a good quote from what Dan had to say. You want sympathy because you can't manage one stereo channel on the whole PA, which is kind of true. But this is a good back and forth, and we thought that maybe the volume wars were over. They're really not. So there's some other reasons why you might keep your stuff ridiculously high and make it sound like crap on purpose. But this is a really good read. These are 2 smart guys. And it's a good back and forth. I would like things not to be mastered to -6, but I can see the fight. Okay. Room EQ Wizard has gone to version 5.20, release candidate 14. So this is a new beta out. Room EQ Wizard is a good testing and measurement software. We use it for a lot of stuff. We use it to dispel a lot of myths. A lot of acoustic engineers use it for tuning rooms or for guesstimating rooms, for a lot of different acoustic reasons, but you can use it for a lot of different things. He's saying the multi-input capture added a button on the measure dialog to configure the SPL alignment and weighting of multi-input capture measurements. You can do minimum phase gathers. There's a bunch of fixes and stuff, but we're getting to the point where a lot of the complaints I had about Room EQ Wizard are just going away. The paradigm has moved so much. If you are in need of some sort of measurement thing for rooms, or you really just want to learn about this stuff, go check out Room EQ Wizards. Maybe not the newest beta. There might be some issues with it, but not that I know that there are. But go check it out. 3M Dual Lock is kicking my butt, man. I have some of you guys know I'm finally a Helix owner. I tried to stick it to a pedal board with some Velcro. You get the rubber feet problem and whatever. I got that all squared away, and I started using 3M Dual Lock. A lot of people seem to like this stuff a lot, and holy crap, this stuff is strong. But I'm having a lot of trouble squishing the Helix down onto the board with it. In fact, I even have trouble sticking expression pedals down onto the pedal board with it. And I think some people were saying that you have to make sure it's perfectly aligned. Well, that's kind of tricky. I don't know. You guys have tricks with Dual Lock? Because I'm almost ready to go back to Velcro. Like, it is being very hard to stick these things down. Once they're stuck, it's on there great, which actually that might be a problem too. So let me know. I'd love to hear more about how you guys are using Dual Lock. I saw some things where people were saying don't use long chunks of it. Use very small little bits on on the piece that comes up. For instance, the Helix, you would just use small patches of it, and it's way easier to put on that way. If you use the long stuff, it's going to be tricky. And I think I actually bent this pedal board. I think, I'm not positive, but I'm gonna put some I'll put some shims underneath it so I can see if that'll stick it down better. But yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble sticking things together, and I'd love to hear more about how you guys are using Dual Lock. In fact, remember that when you are listening to this, there should be a link in the description if you're on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, and you can join the conversation directly. I can pop you in here and you can tell me how you're doing it. Okay, and I'm having a lot of questions about, or problems where people are having trouble using Reaper. From my perspective, the newer themes, it's always been a little bit of a problem, but lately it is just so hard to edit drums. Like, you can't see what's a grid marker, what's a stretch marker. It's hard, man, and it shouldn't be anywhere near this hard to edit drums at this point in Reaper. And some people do it just fine, but for me, I need to see contrasting colors between my grids, my stretch markers, my my waveforms, and I'm using the spectral peaks, which probably makes it even worse. But yeah, we need some help on this thing, I really think. And don't blame me for the new default options that I think this is on who. I shouldn't even say his name, but a lot of the record related buttons aren't showing by default. And if you want to deal with that yourself, for instance, if you're looking at the computer screen, my record input audio or MIDI is showing. I have everything showing. My input selector is showing. But if you have to, go to Input, Themes, then Theme Adjuster. So to go to Options, Themes, and then Theme Adjuster. And you'll see on the track control panel, for instance, you'll see this if mixer is visible grid, if track is not selected, if track's not armed, or always hide. And I've turned off, like, I don't have anything showing on here. Especially the record mode and the input. I want those showing all the time. If track's not armed, I actually have them hidden. I also have the monitor button hidden, but otherwise they are showing all the time. If the track's selected, if the track's visible. The only time you're not going to see some of these things, three of these elements, is if the track isn't armed. I have nothing in always hide. Okay, so if you can't get this thing to do what you're supposed to be doing, this is where you got to look. Options, themes, theme adjuster, color controls, and then go in there and just make sure it's showing all the stuff you really need it to show. I mean, this that'll save you some serious frustration. Not my fault. I can't do anything about it. All right, and last night, people bring amplifiers that don't have speaker emulators all the time, when we've been playing shows out in front of here on Friday nights. And so I used a matching EQ and did as much as I could to make a decent speaker emulator out of the Behringer XR18's EQ on each channel, and I saved it as a preset. It actually worked pretty well. I was surprised. It was definitely listenable, and so that's really nice. So it could be better. I'm going to keep refining this thing, but you could buy some kind of like a torpedo or something, or a cab clone, and stick it in there. But to me, it was okay just loading up this cab impulse and or not a cab impulse, but an EQ that was meant to sound like a cab impulse. Imagine if the XR18 allowed an IR loader. Actually, I wonder if maybe it does, for all I know. Then you would just load in some speaker cabinets and just go. But this worked okay. If you guys are actually doing this yourselves, let me know. I know there's a Behringer, cheap Behringer DI that had like a speaker simulator on it, but I'm like, I already have this thing. I may as well try it. So let me know if you're having some really good luck using the onboard parametric EQs per channel as speaker cabinets. I think it was okay. So let me know. And because this one is called Impulsive Reflections, we're going to be talking about IRs, and I just want to tell you, give you a little bit of my history and how to completely blow it in business. If you look nowadays, impulse responses and all that stuff, that's a huge business. That's an actual like genre of products out there. These impulse players, impulse responses, the cab libraries, all this stuff, the reverbs and everything. And way back in the day, as far as I know, and you guys can go check this out, there was me as Pipeline Audio and Beam Sonic. Actually, my name back then was AES 2496. So if you guys are old IRC guys, you'll know that handle, AES 2496. and I had released the, as far as I know, the very first guitar cabinet Impulses. I did a lot of hardware reverbs and a lot of actual, what was meant to be dynamic convolution. I did tape recorders, compressors. I did them at multi-gain stages, mic preamps, you name it, I had. But, I never thought anybody would actually be interested in this stuff, so I never marketed any of it, really. These were just free things that I was giving out, and people would trade them all over IRCs and the torrents and Napster or whatever back then. Peer-to-peer or file sharing. And then now I look, and these are all like companies that do nothing but make Impulses and stuff. Like, man, boy, did I blow it, So be careful. Maybe you got a good idea later on, and maybe keep it to yourself and find a way to get it out there first. I just didn't care. To me, it was an easy way where I wouldn't have to mic cabinets anymore, so I just recorded a couple different cabinets inside Vintage's Chunk Chamber, where so many awesome guitar albums and guitar sounds were actually created in the first place. And I just kept those Impulses with me and used them over the years. Nowadays I use, for the most part, Celestion's Impulses. But actually I'm getting kind of happy just using the stock cabs inside the Helix with an EQ. So that's another story for another day. But I stumbled onto a thread about reflection-free impulse responses and far-field impulse responses. And these aren't terms that I've ever heard before. To me, reflection-free, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's how I did the chunk chamber. What these are meant to do is to sound like, for the most part, when you guys buy these cab Impulses, you are buying the cabinet through a microphone, usually through the recording chain we would use. Maybe 257s and a Fredman technique, or a 57, 257s and like the way Bill Matoyer did it, the phase trick. Or maybe it's a 57 and a 121, or all these different combinations of mics. What it's supposed to sound like is the recording chain that you're used to using with one of these cabinets if you're micing this stuff up yourself. As far as I've been able to read, the reflection-free IRs and the far-field IRs are meant to sound like the cabinet, and they're calling it amp in the room sound, or some people are, not through a specific mic. What it does sound like to me, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys that make these things, it sounds to me like if I put a PZM mic, a pressure zone mic, which is, you can go read about that later. Maybe we'll do a show on it. If I were to put a PZM mic in the room and put it on the opposite wall, whatever wall the cabinet was actually pointing into would go into the PZM. That's what these things sound like to me. I've read that they're done with measurement microphones. I've read that they're done very far away, maybe using the way that people record that actually test actual speakers. Some where you don't have a floor, no reflections or whatever. Maybe that's why they call it reflection-free IR, because there's definitely reflections inside the cabs. You want those, but somebody named Gigs Up. And I tried to find more information about this. He private messaged me, and I see him posting a lot in these Impulse pages. I'm trying to find a page with him, but I can't. He sent me a thing called the IR diagrams to share, and he showed me a test setup of how he's testing things. Using the sweeps instead of a click. I guess, that's what we used when we were doing it back in the day, right? We used sweeps for everything. He's talking about minimum distances, how they're recording and stuff, what he's getting from his results of testing and stuff, and then a bunch of pages. And I'm not sure if I'm really supposed to share these things, so I'm not going to go too far, but he had you could ask him for it. He's got a clip, and these were taken from, I'm sure he's okay with these being shared. These were taken from different forum posts that ended up getting deleted and everything. And he tells a lot. Man, I wish you guys on Instagram and stuff could see these pictures, but he's showing a lot about how he's actually doing these tests. The other guy that's doing this is named Jay. Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble. Let me see if I can pop this up real quick. Everybody's talking about these things, but the only ones I've actually been able to find and use are by this guy Jay, who apparently keeps getting banned off of the gear page. But that's not too hard to do when you're telling the truth, right? I mean, you see me get in trouble all the time for asking for evidence of a claim, But this guy, let's see, he wrote one called "My Thoughts on." Jay Mitchell. So Jay Mitchell made one, a pair of them that people were sharing around the internet and stuff, and I tried them, and I actually had a pretty good time with it. But again, like I say, it sounds like a PZM. Like, if you were to make an amp actually sound the way it sounds in a room, all these people who claim that that's what they want, I don't think they really like that, because every time I've been able to do it pretty close with Jacqueline discs or PZMs or whatever, they don't like it, and I don't like it. It sounds kind of far away and boring, but this is a little bit more pristine than when I've done it, and I was able to use these perfectly well. I put an EQ after them, and then I got it kind of the way I wanted, without the coloration of a microphone, which usually you think, the coloration of the microphone is what you want. But I don't know. I had a pretty good time trying this out, and I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth here, and there's no reason for you guys to get so emotional that you're banning people or going on the crazy attacks over technology like this. I mean, if you go and read up on these forums, go to gear pages, you'll see a lot of them. I think I've seen them some at GS, but mainly I saw it at the gear pages. There's a lot of talk about this stuff, a lot of emotions, a lot of banning, a lot of complaints. But we're just talking about technology. Just go for it. Let me play something that ML Sound Labs had talking about impulse response myths, and I really hope that this is going to play. There were a couple that he went through, but the one that I'm really interested in is the dynamics one, and so hopefully this is going to play. We're going to find out in 2 seconds here.
That is, even in my opinion, a little bit overkill. 200 milliseconds is definitely enough to capture the full dynamic spectrum of a guitar cabinet.
Okay,
if you understand the frequency, like let's say 125 Hertz, which usually is around that low-end palm mute frequency, what the IR format is actually doing is, during that 200 milliseconds, it's listening to the amplitude of the guitar cabinets and how much variance during that 200 milliseconds there will be in real life. So once you combine time with amplitude, what you get is dynamics.
Okay, this is really important. Let me play this back a couple again. Let me see if he talks about the dynamics. Hold on.
The full dynamic spectrum milliseconds is SoundLab packs come in 500 millisecond formats. That is, even in my opinion, a little bit overkill.
Okay, where is he?
So the ML SoundLab packs have the IR format is fully capable of capturing that.
Okay, here we go.
It's really kind of claim otherwise. A guitar cabinet doesn't have that much of an effect, because I'd love to talk to you. Okay, so let's start talking about the myths. The most common and most idiotic one is that the IR format is incapable of capturing the dynamics of a guitar cabinet. Let me just start with saying that, do you think that a guitar cabinet has a lot of dynamic variance in it? Because all the measurements really kind of claim otherwise. A guitar cabinet doesn't have that much of an effect dynamic-wise, but whatever it may have, the IR format is fully capable of capturing that. This comes down to how long your IR is. So the ML SoundLab packs come in 500 millisecond formats. That is, even in my opinion, a little bit overkill. 200 milliseconds is definitely enough to capture the full dynamic spectrum of a guitar cabinet. If you understand the IR format, you'll realize that, for example, if you take a frequency like, let's say, 125 hertz, which usually is around that low-end palm mute frequency. What the IR format is actually doing is, during that 200 milliseconds, it's listening to the amplitude of the guitar cabinets and how much variance during that 200 milliseconds there will be in real life. So once you combine time with amplitude, what you get is dynamics. And that's exactly what the IR format does. So, yeah.
He shows a graph of the decay of a note. I think it's time stretched out so you can see it, and it's showing that I think that the low end takes a little bit longer to decay than the high end, and he's using that as proof of dynamics. I am having a little bit of trouble with using this as a way of non-linearity. I mean, it still seems to me like it is just the imposing a spectral curve on top of a waveform. I don't see how this can be dynamics, even if you're averaging it out. But he's claiming it is. Let me play back just a little bit more. He's saying lower frequencies sustain longer. That means its sustain is nonlinear. But a reverb, a static reverb, the lows could sustain longer. You could have the decay time difference. So I'm really not sure. I don't know about this claim. But let me put it this way. Maybe that's dynamic, maybe it's not. But hey, Reflection Point Pod. My issue is that the idea to me is that a speaker is like a multiband compressor. I think so many devices are. I thought tubes were, for sure. Where different frequencies respond differently to different input levels and in nonlinear ways. But in the case of speakers, in the case of cabinets and everything, I never really found it in real life to be noticeable. So I kind of ignored it. I say that I still could believe that a speaker is a multiband dynamic device, but it's of so little difference to me when I compare the cabinet and the Impulse that I just don't care. But on the other hand, of course, Celestion, who makes the speakers you guys are probably making Impulses out of in the first place, and also nowadays they've entered the Impulse market. I use their stuff. They have something called dynamic speaker responses, and let me read what they have to say. Taking impulse responses to the next level of detail, accuracy, and feel, the dynamic speaker response is not simply a speaker's frequency response, but also its attitude. Celestion has developed an in-depth measurement technique that enables us to build complete and intricate physical models of speakers and cabinets describing the dynamic, non-linear behavior in immaculate detail. This results in precise, all-encompassing models that go beyond the straightforward linear processing of convolution to infuse the nonlinearities, interactions, and dynamics synonymous with the feel and realism of guitar speakers in the digital domain. Experience much more light and shade as DSR tonality responds to your playing style, delivering every ounce of expression and emotion that you've invested into your playing. I'm a little concerned about these types of words right here. DSRs respond to the input signal in true analog fashion. The input gain fader in Speaker Mix Pro controls the equivalent electrical input power to each DSR between 1 watt and the maximum power of the loudspeaker. Each DSR loaded onto any of the 6 Speaker Mix Pro channels produces a dynamic nonlinear response relative to its own electrical power level and playing style. Note, okay, listen. User-loaded wave impulse responses respond linearly to the input gain fader. Okay. So they made something called Speaker Mix Pro, and this is a plugin I'm not sure which formats it's available for, but I saw a guy load it up in Cubase, so I'm assuming VST3. It's their own impulse response thing. Wow, I can't believe they don't show a picture here, but not that you guys on Instagram or whatever could see it. But they've got their own impulse loader, and it supposedly takes advantage of this dynamic speaker response things, because really a regular IR, or I mean, if you're going into a regular IR loader like the one in your hardware modeling pedal or modeling amplifier or whatever, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of the dynamic part of it anyway. So, but it's interesting to see. I don't know how much it costs. Let's go to shop. Celestion Speaker Mix Pro. Take a look here. $200. You know, probably worth it if you're into this. Probably comes with some. Does it come with some impulses? I hope it does. Speaker Mix Pro includes 10 free individual DSRs of your choice. Interesting. Of your choice. Browse our DSR range to select your 10 now. Nice. VST, AAX, and audio units. Okay. So there you go. Jason Sadites, I'm not sure how you say his name. This guy has been instrumental in helping me understand how to really work the Helix. He does a video talking about this Celestion Plus Digital. He says it makes a big difference. And then he does an A/B test. But you can go to his video and go check this out. It's called Celestion Plus Digital. Have they reinvented the impulse response landscape? And I don't know. He tried to level match as close as he could. I really didn't hear anything. Maybe, you know, I'm just a noob and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I didn't hear that big of a difference. And I'm okay with these static IRs for now, but I encourage you to go check out his video and see if you hear something. And I think that's all I got for today. So I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys later. Let's see. So let me just stop everything.